support entrepreneurship amongst ladies with chapter.
इसका ऑडियो क्या क्या इसका अभी तो था ऑडियो क्या हो गया ऑडियो is on there ऑडियो is here
Fisheries Services or Bank Probationary Officers. JITO has opened more doors for young aspirants. And for the less privileged ones, the stronger hands in the community have always been generous in reaching out.
Hello.
ठीक है ऑन गुड
JITO bookstores, transforming students' learning. JITO has undertaken a hostel project and construction of hostel.
Good evening and Jai Janeta. My name is Sanskriti Mehta and I'll be your MC for tonight. I'd like to begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians on the land in which we meet and those of the lands in which each of you are joining online today. I pay respect to elders past and present. I'd like to welcome you to the Australia-India Business Summit 2022. Brought to you by JITO Australia, JITO International and the JITO Business Network. This is in conjunction with the Consulate General of India and we are proudly supported by Invest India, Judo Bank, Australia-India Business Exchange and the Confederation of Indian Industry. A warm welcome to those of you joining us online from across the globe. We are excited to bring to you a robust platform for growth, networking and business collaboration. Brings real business opportunities and funding options for aspiring and existing entrepreneurs. As a child growing up in Australia, India is known here by the 3 C's: curry, cricket and coal. I am proud to say that now it seems that we have graduated to the 3 D's: democracy, defence and diversity. Recent years have seen remarkable growth in the trading relationship between India and Australia. This has been fueled by the many synergies between the two economies. Two-way trade in goods and services has grown in value from 13.6 billion in 2007 to 24.3 billion in 2020. India is currently the world's largest democracy and is a market of 1.4 billion people. Its youthful population, diversified economy and growth trajectory present significant opportunity for Australian business, an opportunity that we will explore today. A huge welcome to you all. Before we kick off for the evening, some housekeeping. Please ensure that your phones are either switched off or on silent and toilets are on the right. As per tradition, to honour the beginning of this summit, we will play the Navkar mantra. I thus request you all to please take off your shoes if possible. This ceremony will be followed by the lighting of a ceremonious lamp. This lamp represents eternal knowledge. If you could all please stand for the Navkar mantra, the most profound mantra in Jainism, and it addresses the divine qualities of all the saints, the siddhas and the sages. Thank you.
Can you stop for about a minute?
Namo Arihantanam, Namo Siddhanam, Namo Aryanam, Namo Vachayanam, Namo Loe Savisaunam, Eso Panchanamo Karu, Save Pavapanasano, Mangala Lanche Save Singh, Parmang Havai Mangalam. Thank you. Could I please invite on stage to light the lamp Miss Frances Lisson, Chief Negotiator, Trade and Foreign Affairs, Mr. Girish Singh Kavia, Consul Commerce, Honourable Ted Baillieu, former Premier, Mr. Dhruv Deepak Saxena, Chairman CII, Mr. Madhur Gupta, Manhari Metals, Mr. Cam Vale, CEO ASTN, Mr. Sandeep Soni, Founder DFO India, Mr. Damien Novak, Regional Director Judo Bank, Mr. Bhupendra Setia, Zone Chair JITO Asia Pacific, Mr. Vikram Mehta, Chairman JITO Australia. If you could please come forward to light the lamp. Thank you. I'd like to now invite Mr. Bhupendra Setia, Zone Chair, JITO Asia Pacific, to deliver his address. Ben is passionate about education and entrepreneurship. He has over 20 years of industry, business and education experience. His business interests are large-scale land development, construction, finance and education. He is the founder chairman of JITO Australia and current leading zone chairman. He is an innovator and a disruptor who challenges conventional ways with his entrepreneurial approach. Ben has a vision to create 108 entrepreneurs, of which he has molded 20 already. I'd like to welcome Ben.
Look at those tense faces. They're smiling down. A warm welcome to each and every one of you who's present here today, and everyone else. A warm welcome to each and everyone who's present here today, and everyone else who's present on Zoom across the globe. We had almost 1,000 registrations across the globe where people have joined us. Because of limited capacity at the consulate, we had to close the registrations. And this event is being live streamed online on YouTube as well. So lots of viewers from across the globe. Welcome to everyone. Honorary Ted Bellew, Francis Lisson, Honorary Consul Commerce Girish Singh Kavya, Honorary Lisa Singh, who's joined us through Zoom, Mr. Didi Saxena, Ms. Yashika Kurana, who's joined us on Zoom, and Honorary Monica Kennedy through Zoom as well, and all you wonderful people. Today is about celebrating and unpacking a welcome stepping stone towards a full Australia-India Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement. It provides for competitive tariff elimination or tariff reduction on a middle range of key Australian goods, exports, and opens new services markets for suppliers in sectors that complement India's domestic reform policies. It has taken over 10 years for us to get to this stage, but we hope that the pathway to the full comprehensive ECTA will be a quick one from here. And we're sure that will happen because we've got Francis on the big seat. The good news is that 96% of imported goods to Australia will be duty-free, and 85% of tariffs on Australian goods being exported to India will be removed into a 1.4 billion people economy whose GDP is growing by 9%. JITO is a worldwide organization of entrepreneurs, industrialists, and high net worth individuals from across the globe who come on this common platform to deliver three main objectives: economic empowerment, knowledge empowerment, and community development or service to community. The AI ECTA is aligned to JITO's objective, so we curate more entrepreneurs through the opportunities the ECTA presents and help existing and aspiring entrepreneurs grow across the globe, especially between the two countries. JITO Australia was founded 4 years ago, and it has brought positive change to many aspiring and existing entrepreneurs. Our motto is learn, earn, and return. So we provide this community platform run by community volunteers for entrepreneurs across the globe. We hope that today's session and discussions provide you with key takeaways that will help you in your journey of entrepreneurship. So I just want to leave you guys with a thought. Entrepreneurship is living a few years of your life like most people won't, so that you can spend the rest of your life like most people can't. Welcome and thank you for coming in today.
Thank you, Ben. I'd like to invite on stage Mr. Girish Singh Kavya. With over 2 decades of service in the Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, Mr. Girish Singh Kavya served in different capacities at the headquarters in New Delhi, as well as on Indian diplomatic missions in Frankfurt, Kiev, Paris, and Islamabad. He is currently based in Melbourne at the Consulate General of India. Thank you for hosting us here. Please.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, friends, namaskar and good evening to you all. A warm welcome to you all to this hybrid event on business and trade opportunities between Australia and India, where we will be discussing various aspects and opportunities arising out of the recently concluded Australia-India Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement. This event is being jointly organized by the Consulate General of India, Melbourne, JITO International, JITO Australia, Economic Diplomacy Division of the Ministry of External Affairs, and supported by Invest India, Confederation of Indian Industries, Judo Bank, and Australia-India Business Exchange. Let me begin with acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land where we have gathered today and pay my respects to the elders, past, present, and emerging. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of the former Premier of Victoria, Honorable Ted Bellew, Ms. Frances Leeson, Chief Negotiation, Australia-India Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement, Mr. D.D. Saxena, Chair, Confederation of Indian Industries, IBF Australia, and all other dignitaries present here. Also to acknowledge those joining through Zoom, Honorable Lisa Singh, CEO, Australia-India Institute, Ms. Monica Kennedy, Senior Trade and Investment Commissioner at Austrade, Mumbai, Ms. Yashika Khurana, Assistant Vice President, Invest India, and all others, and my media friends. Friends, let me delve a bit on India and Australia bilaterals, focusing on trade and commerce and the Indus ICTA. India and Australia enjoy excellent bilateral relations that have undergone transformative evolution in recent years, developing along a positive track into a friendly partnership. This is a special partnership characterized by shared values of pluralistic parliamentary democracies, Commonwealth traditions, expanding economic engagement, long-standing people-to-people ties, and increasing high-level interaction. As you all might be aware, Indus ICTA was signed on 2nd April 2022 by the then Minister Tehan and Minister Goyal after months of hard work and close coordination. The fact that the agreement came into being in the year 2022, which coincides with the 75th year of independence of India, is something to be felt very, very special about. We have one more great reason to celebrate this wonderful year coinciding with India at 75. ICTA is the first trade agreement of India with a developed country after more than a decade and provides for an institutional mechanism to improve trade between the two countries. The agreement encompasses cooperation across the entire gamut of bilateral economic and commercial relations between the two friendly countries and covers areas like trade in goods, rules of origin, trade in services, technical barriers to trade, sanitary and phytosanitary measures, dispute settlement, movement of natural persons, telecom, customs procedures, pharmaceutical products, and cooperation in other areas. Friends, the agreement is set to bring opportunities for India across sectors including mining, pharmaceuticals, health, education, railways, gems and jewelry, tourism, defense and textiles. India is also likely to seek easier visa access for both students and professionals visiting Australia. Australia is likely to seek market access for wines and agricultural products which are not produced on a large scale in India. Both countries are also looking at mutual recognition of educational qualifications to boost the number of Indian students seeking education in Australia and vice versa, and boost tourism in both the countries. The agreement would lead to deeper cooperation between the two countries in critical minerals and rare earth elements, which are critical to future industries including renewable energy and electric vehicles. The pact is expected to increase bilateral trade in goods and services from the existing $27.5 billion to more than $45 billion in 5 years. Apart from increased trade and economic cooperation, Indus Ekta will further deepen the people-to-people contacts between the two countries by expanding work, study, and travel opportunities. I sincerely look forward to the ever-growing relationship of India and Australia to evolve stronger and stronger. The consulate shall continue to facilitate trade between the two countries. I would request business entities here to register with the consulate so that we can share important information related to trade and commerce, and also direct commercial enquiries received from India to local parties in the given sector. I wish this event will help you attain greater understanding of Indus Ekta for the benefit of trade and commerce between the two great democracies. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, sir. I'd now like to invite Mr. Hitesh Doshi, General Secretary, JITO Apex. Mr. Doshi is an experienced entrepreneur and demonstrates strong leadership both in non-profit and profit sectors. It's a pleasure to have you with us today via Zoom. Hi, sir. Are you able to hear us? Put your hands up if you've ever had Zoom difficulties in the past 3 years. I think all of us.
इस लाइव स्ट्रीम ऑडियो वो ऑडियो यहाँ का है दिस डोंट टच दैट इज गोइंग फ्रॉम हियर वी नीड टू अनम्यूट दिस ऑडियो ये अलग ऑडियो लाइव स्ट्रीम ऑडियो यहाँ पर यू कैन होस्ट इज टू अनम्यूट which is the speaker.
I'm seeing a lot of posters around here talking about incredible India. Anyone want to tell me something about India, if any of you have visited recently, that they found incredible? I might ask.
Ted, he's been many times. So
Have
I'm
you?
Sure he can tell
pass
you
the mic
things.
to you. Well, I'm sure there's a song we can sing about Zoom. Hitesh, I don't know whether you can sing along with me, but I must admit I was speaking to a group yesterday and I was talking about the diversity of India, the extraordinary diversity, the 30-odd states and territories, depending on your definition, and the fact that two-thirds of those states already have populations bigger than Australia. And it puts everything in context for us. And I said, as an example, look at Assam. Most Australians don't think much about Assam because most haven't visited. But there it is in the northeast corner of India, in the valleys below Bhutan and Nepal and others, and those two beautiful rivers. 35 million people, bigger than Australia, and yet one-third the size of Victoria. A most extraordinarily beautiful place. And as an example of the diversity of India, You can compare that with just about anywhere else in India, completely different. In the valleys and extraordinarily beautiful, rich agricultural land, tea, golf being played in the middle of tea plantations. What a splendid place it is in extraordinary India.
You've definitely drawn me to visit Assam soon now, I think. Thank you for that. Would anyone else like to share something? Yes, sir.
Rakesh here. Incredible India. So many things you can find now. The tallest statue of equality, that is in India. Recently, PM Modi inaugurated the Statue of Equality of Unity. That is also a unique thing. 1,000 years ago, a sage came to bring equality around in the community. And the infrastructure growing like anything, whether it is metro, whether it is bullet trains, whether it is road network. Anybody who visits India now will find that it is no less than any country, rather better. So it is incredible India coming up, and 75 to 100 years are to watch India to become bigger, better, and better.
I request someone else to speak. I think one last thing I'll add is the chai. If you've been to India and had chai there, I don't think anywhere in the world compares. Due to some technical difficulties, we will move on. I'd like to invite Mr. Gautam Oswal. He is the chairman of the JITO International Wing, and he has led JITO as it's spread across the globe. He is the owner and the founder of Artawale, working on mega infrastructure projects, and also the owner of Galma, which is an international brand of non-leather accessories. With him, I'd also like to introduce Mr. Mahavir Mehta. He is the owner of the Swatima Group, specializing in property development and large construction projects. He has a strong belief in social contribution and responsibility and works on giving back when he has the time. But I'd like to welcome both of them, please.
We have curated an excellent event today for JITO members who wanted to scale business in Australia and India. With support of JITO OPEX, I'm happy that as on today we have presence in 26 countries, and before 30th September we are planning to start New Jersey, Oman, Saudi, Ghana and Kuwait. And with the help of our very active zone chairman, we'll be starting 2 more JITO initiatives in Australia. Recently, JIW had an excellent event called Global Summit in Dubai, wherein more than 15 countries and 350 delegates attended. We have another 50 days for this term, and I'm sure our team is working to give you more initiatives. Thank you. Thank you, one and all. I request Mabeji to say a few words.
It seems Mahaviji has dropped.
Intellectually challenging and managing considerable policy differences between the two.
To you, just for you guys to know, she's flown all the way from Canberra here, so an extra big round of applause for her, please.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the welcome. And it is a pleasure to be in Melbourne because it's actually much, much warmer here than Canberra, so I'm enjoying the weather. It's also a great pleasure to come and speak to you about AI ECTA. It's an agreement that was a number of years in the making, and I was involved right at the beginning in 2011. So it is with some personal satisfaction I can say that we reached that agreement in April this year. I think the most important thing is that it reflects a real growing relationship between Australia and India. Bilateral relations have really strengthened in the last few years with the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership being signed in 2020, with the growing Indian diaspora here in Australia, with the real synergies and complementarities between our two economies. And now we have AI ECTA, which we believe holds some really significant commercial opportunities to go with that. So we're very pleased that this is part of a story of closer relations between Australia and India. Just to give you a little bit of history, as I said, we started negotiations for the Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement in 2011. We spent a number of years, working on this and reached some general understandings, but there were some significant differences as well. And so negotiations focused instead on the Regional Cooperation Economic Partnership, the RCEP, for a number of years. India pulled out of RCEP in around 2020, and then we met again, and there was the agreement that we should try again for a bilateral agreement between the two countries. And it was in September last year that the agreement was made between our two trade ministers to start with a stage 1 agreement, which is the AI ECTA, to do that as quickly as we can to lock in what we could, and then have moved to a stage 2 agreement, the Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement, shortly afterwards. So we've reached that first stage, we've signed that first agreement in April, and that's been very significant. It's significant for Melbourne because it was actually signed here in Melbourne on the Australian side, virtually with, of course, India signing it from New Delhi, with the between the two trade ministers and with the two leaders watching on. So yes, it has a special place with Melbourne. The agreement itself has, and I'll perhaps go through some of those outcomes for you in particular. It, as we've heard from a few people, it covers around 90% of Australia's trade with India. Tariffs on 90% of Australia's trade to India will be eliminated or substantially reduced. And 85% of that on entry into force of the agreement. So that's a very quick, big change. It'll change the environment in terms of goods exports to India, and provide opportunities, new opportunities that weren't there before. With trade coming the other way, Australia will eliminate 100% of tariffs on goods coming from India, with 96% on day one on entry into force of the agreement, and the rest just over a 3 or 4 year period. So this should free up trade substantially between the two countries. just to give you a couple of examples, and it is important for Australia in terms of our exports to India, because India does have some fairly high tariffs in some of the goods that we export. And so getting those tariffs down and being, as we've heard, the first developed country for 10 years to have a free trade agreement with India. So we will be one of the first developed countries to have tariff elimination on products of great importance to Australia, such as, firstly, in agriculture, in the area of wool, sorry, I'll just get my list, in wool, in almonds, lentils, cotton, oats and barley, a wide range of fruit and vegetables. Wine will have a big cut in the tariff very quickly. It's 150% tariff, so that's quite significant getting that down. Oil seeds, sheep meat, some oils as well, and a wide range of seafood. In the goods area, we have a strong relationship in providing resources and energy to India, and there will be a lot of those tariffs eliminated immediately, particularly on things like coal and alumina, on copper, manganese, titanium, on zirconium, a wide range there. And on manufactured products too of real importance to Australia, such as pharmaceuticals and vitamins, on wood and wood products, on vitamins, I'm sorry, I've said them already, on explosives, on a number of product fertilisers as well. A number of products that we export to India will have that tariff reduced immediately. So there's some really good outcomes there. These outcomes will appear when the agreement enters into force. And of course, as with any international treaty and with any free trade agreement, we have particular domestic processes to go through our Parliament, and that the Joint Standing Committee on Treaties, for example, will have an examination and make recommendations about the agreement, and then it will go through both houses of Parliament, and then we can hopefully, with all going well, we can look at entry into force. In services, there's some really important outcomes too. Education's a very important sector which has suffered considerably in the sort of COVID lockdown period in Australia. But what we have in this agreement is not just a commitment that Australia will get as good treatment in those sectors as any of India's future FTA partners, but also we've provided some incentives for Indian students through post-study work visas, particularly targeting STEM students, with locking in those rights to come and work after study. Most students from different countries have that, but India will be the only and has extra lengths of time for some STEM students as well. There's also working holiday visas, which is another chance to have the important people-to-people links between Australia and India. And we have a facilitation of professional recognition of professional qualifications. So governments will look at facilitating the different professions which need to talk to each other to mutually recognise each other's qualifications, and so the governments will both work to try to encourage that so that we can facilitate more movement between people in the different markets. That's just a taste of some of the things in the agreement. We believe there are some really big commercial outcomes there for Australia. There are some things missing, and we understand that, and those are things that are a bit more sensitive that we're going to be looking at in the second stage negotiations, which will start soon. And we have, on the DFAT website, there is an invitation for all business people to provide submissions on anything that you would like to see, or particular things you'd like us to take into account in the negotiations. So we very much want to hear from you on your priorities in the negotiations going forward. So I think in summary, we hope this is an agreement that gets everybody to look again at the Indian market. There are new opportunities for trade diversification and particularly important recovery after COVID period. And please contact us in DFAT if you want to know more about the agreement, but also Austrade if you want to look at engaging in the Indian market, and they can facilitate and help you with their people across India. So thanks very much.
Great, thank you so much. And it's really interesting to know that this is just the beginning of a story, and thank you for guiding us through that. Today we have an amazing panel exploring some insights into IECTA and the opportunities and challenges it brings, as well as what the future looks like for bilateral trade. For this panel, I'd like to invite Honourable Ted Baillieu, former Premier of Victoria, Officer, the Order of Australia. Ted Baillieu served as the Premier of Victoria and the Minister for the Arts from 2010 to 2013. Mr. Baillieu is passionate about Victoria, our multicultural base, and the arts. As a former architect and fellow of the Australian Institute of Architects, Ted uses his knowledge and experience to promote architecture, design, growth, and development, all towards building a better future for all Victorians. I'd also like to invite Mr. D.D. Saxena, Confederation of Indian Industry. Mr. Saxena formed Riverina Oils and founded Unibic Biscuits in India, the first Australian food joint venture in Bangalore. He is a dynamic entrepreneur and has made an incredible contribution towards improving the India-Australia relationship. Ms. Yashika Khurana, VP Invest India. Yashika is a seasoned professional with over 10 years of experience in consulting, marketing, and customer interaction. She has significant experience in working with accounts, business heads, and technical teams. She's joining us from India via Zoom. Ms. Lisa Singh, former Senator. She was the first Indian elected to Australian Senate in 2010 and representing Tasmania. As the first person of Indian origin in Australian Parliament, she has continued to build Australia's relationship with India. I'd also like to invite Dr. Monica Kennedy, the Senior Trade Commissioner of AIBX or Austrade, who will be joining us online. To moderate our panel, I'd like to invite Mr. Bhupendra Sethia, Zone Chair, JITO Asia Pacific, and also invite again Ms. Frances Lesson, Chief Negotiator, FTA.
Thank you, and welcome Yashika, Lisa, and Monica. I'm not sure if Monica's joined us, but welcome. It's a hybrid. We've had a few challenges, but seems to be all working fine now. And once again, thank you, Ted, Francis, and Didi for joining us here today. So we're going to have a discussion around the IECTA. And we're also going to open the floor to our audience to ask any questions that they may have, because it's often becomes a one-way traffic when audience are in the listening seats. But we want to hear from them and from you as to the answers of those questions. So I might start with Ted. And Ted, look, you've been an ambassador for the bilateral trade even before this ECTA came into place. And you have helped many organizations in both the countries to be able to establish bilateral trade. What has been your experience? What do you think were the top 3 wins and the top 3 challenges that you would have faced in the bilateral trade between Australia and India?
Well, thanks very much, Benny. It's always a pleasure to talk to JITO, so thank you for another opportunity. And I share thanks with all the other panellists here and all of those who are watching. This is much appreciated. I think I've been following India's progress for so long that I've become attached to the alphabet. Benny, I think you referred to the pathways, others have referred to the road, and if you go back to 2007, our relationship was talking about the QUAD, the Quad, version 1 as it's turned out to be now. And then we went from the QUAD to the CECA version 1, to the AIES, to the RCEP, to the IAEC, to the CSP, to the QUAD version 2, now to the IECTA, and then there'll be the IACCA, and hopefully we'll get the FTA somewhere down the track and it'll be complete. But where are we heading? They're the signposts along the way, and every one of those has been a step along the way. And I have referred at the time of the announcement of the IECTA that it's the ECTA of the gods for the relationship. It's a really important step. But what's our destination? Australia enjoys what I call Tier 1 relationships, and that's probably a reasonable description, with the US, with the UK, with New Zealand, with Japan, with Canada. I'm keen to see we have that Tier 1 relationship with India as well, and that the relationship is as easy, as comfortable and as warm with India as it is with New Zealand. And that's not to say that there aren't conditional components to any international relationship. We have those with New Zealand now. But I describe that path that we're all on, the change in India which is happening so profoundly and at such a huge scale, and the need for Australia to change in response, and that path we're on as being India-inevitable. I've been doing that for some time, and I think it stands the test of time because it's the direction we're heading. We're not quite there yet, but boy, this is a big step. And I was delighted when we got that announcement before the election. I'm just as delighted that it would appear that the new government are picking up the major components, and as Francis said, there'll be some legislation still to come. But the opportunity is there for everyone in both directions to prosper.
Hello.
It's not a licence to do whatever you want to do. It's another open door. It's a gateway to one of the relationships I believe will dominate Australia's future in particular. And as I said before in that filler piece, the 30-odd states of India, already 2/3 of them larger than Australia by population. And by 2050, I think it's all of them. So whether we're the 31st state of India or India's the 7th state of Australia, it doesn't really matter, as long as we're warm and cuddly along the way.
Absolutely, and the dynamics is amazing between the countries. I think Australia is 2% of India's population, and India's population grows by 2% every year. So we have a new Australia every year. So it's just the scale is just humongous, and I think there are a lot of opportunities, as you say, Ted. Thank you. We might do a bit of balance here between the online speakers we have and also the ones we have on stage here. So over to you, Lisa. I know you have been doing a lot of work with the diaspora, and I just got your invite for celebrating Diwali as a community get-together, and that's amazing. And I think one of the things is the diaspora plays an important role in all of this, because I think we are the bridge, everyone out here today, we are the bridge between India and Australia, because we understand, I've been here 20 years and most of these people here today, I have been as well, and we understand how the cultural and business dynamics work in this country as well as back home. So I think the government must be using the diaspora extensively for bilateral trade, advocacy, and also, teasing out some of these implementation issues as well. Lisa, what are your thoughts and what work have you done in this space, and how do you think the future holds for our diaspora?
Well, thank you, Ben, for that question, but also to participate in this JITO event today. And can I say hello to all the participants and thank them for being part of this important conversation. Look, I'm pleased that you received, Ben, our invitation from the Institute today. Not for Diwali, though. I think Diwali is a little bit further down the track at the moment, but more for something more significant and important happening in August, which of course is India's 75th anniversary of independence. So yes, we're hosting a gala dinner at the NGV, and for any of your participants who would like to attend, who we may not have reached out to, please get in contact through you, Ben, or through me or Ted, who's one of our board members at the Institute, and we will make sure an invitation is sent. But on your question in terms of the diaspora, I mean, that's just one example of where we will come together as a Victorian community to really celebrate the vibrant Indian diaspora we have here in Victoria. But more importantly, I think we need to recognise that the Indian diaspora in Australia are highly educated, very employable, and a lot of them quite wealthy, as Peter Varghese articulated in his India economic strategy in 2018. If you look at, say, senior management and director positions across Australian organisations, the DFAT mapping report, the diaspora mapping report that it did late last year, that we launched actually at the Institute, shows that people with Indian heritage in Australia make up 13% of those senior management and director positions, despite the Indian diaspora population only making up 3% of the total Australian population. So that just shows you that they are cutting edge. And I think that that's not just on the on the sort of senior employer situation, it's also on the education side. 80% of Indian-born residents have higher education qualifications compared to the Australian average of 65%. So, you can see that Indians in Australia are smart, they're hardworking, they're prosperous, and the diaspora is just such a national economic asset, and therefore should be engaged and deployed as such. But I've been on record of saying in the past, and I'm happy to say it again today, that I still think they're fairly untapped, particularly by government. And I think this is where, if we talk about, bilateral trade negotiations, looking at beyond ECTA and looking at CECA, that is the next big trade negotiation and free trade agreement that our two countries are going to reach, which is very exciting for both countries, then, it's going to need to have support from business, from industry, and for government to be looking at how far they will need to go in that agreement to get that sort of support. And I think the diaspora has a huge role to play here because of how well they're represented across the Australian business community. So if we look at the sort of mechanisms that government can employ in this space, so I think Austrade have the Australian India Business Exchange. I think that can play an important role here, connecting Australian and Indian businesses with one another, unlocking new markets. But then also, organisations outside of government, such as the Business Council of Australia, such as CII, can also look at, targeting discussions together, drilling down sector by sector to try and identify what are the big challenges for both businesses on both sides and how the diaspora can play a leading role in that space. On top of all of that, Ben, I also, though, want to highlight that the diaspora also brings with it youth. It brings youth, it brings innovation, entrepreneurship. And I see that so often, or every day really, at the University of Melbourne, where the Australia-India Institute is located. We see that in our Indian students. India itself, of course, has a very vibrant and youthful population, with nearly half of its population under the age of 25. So I think we need to try and make an effort to capture that youth and that vibrancy here in Australia. A lot more that we can do, I think, to really sort of engage with our diaspora. Of course, there's lots of significant days to do that around, like the 75th anniversary, but I'm talking about more into the, embedding into the government and the business networks that we want to see both of our two countries thrive from.
Aradhya, are we disconnected with India?
And they could be the same in Australia, whereas it's more seamless here. What has been your experience and how did you do it? And what's your message to the entrepreneurs here who want to get into that space of bilateral trade or grow that trade?
Thank you, Ben, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. Well, I mean, I've had the unique privilege of being the only person in Australia of Indian origin who's established a greenfield project in Australia and having established a greenfield project in India. However, before I answer a question, I just want to state 2-3 key points that are my personal belief. First, I think we have been talking of trade, trade, and trade. I think the real opportunity in India is that of investment. You can't leverage, yes, sure, I mean, there are intrinsic needs, there are market gaps, and government processes and barriers and tariffs do make a difference in making a facilitation. But I think investment creates a multiplier effect, it embeds, and it really brings a longer term return, and it really cements the relationship. And I personally believe that that's not going to be driven by the big end of town, because the mindset is that India is too hard, too complex. The board members, I mean, and they're classic examples, I mean, like of ANZ walking out, which I can't believe is a reality on the ground. So I feel that this process is going to be driven by SMEs. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that I think the relationship between government to government is 8.5 to 9 on a score of 10. I think people relationship, I mean, there has to be more, as Lisa said, effective use of the diaspora. And there are classic examples. Look at the story of Singapore, look at the story of US, look at even Canada and UK. I don't think the government has used the diaspora that effectively. But coming back to the point, the diaspora-diaspora relationship is very good. The tragedy is in a business-to-business relationship, I'd give it a score of 3. And that's unfortunately the truth. Now, that's not going to happen through, I mean, a government actor. It's going to happen through change in mindset and skill set. And we must understand that Australia is a fairly monopolistic country in terms of its manufacturing assets. And therefore, the Australian managers are brilliant managers at maintenance, at doing more of the same. But we have been very poor managers because we lack the skill set of going into a new country, looking at creatively adapting into new markets where you're required to be able to deal with competition. And the third point that I do want to make is that as far as the institutions are concerned, surely they can play a role. But India is a very touch me, see me, feel me kind of a market. I mean, obviously, TED's experience has not come through KPMG reports and by reading a lot of things. It has come by visiting India. And therefore, it's a country where processes, systems, as we understand in the developed first world, are very different. It's not a standard operating procedures as we understand. Things happen, but things happen in a different way, and we've got to learn. I mean, even crossing a street is a challenge in India, but once you know how to do it, it's not as big a challenge. Now, coming back to my specific experience, the first thing is, I'll tell you, the business that I put up in Australia is a canola crushing plant. I'm the founder, promoter. It's one of the largest greenfield project in food and agri. And yes, it is a $300 million business. But what I want to tell you, it took 5 years, and it was meant to be a $75 million project. And I mean, there's no reflection in Australia, but what I'm trying to say is the challenges of putting up a business is true everywhere. The other thing is I put up Unique Biscuits in India, which, by the way, is now the largest food brand, non-MNC brand in India, not by Australia or anybody else in the last 14, 15 years. And we put up that project from the date we formed the company in 1 year. Now, surely the fact that I have a background in India, I've worked in India, does make a difference. So I think this whole thing of understanding what it means, complexities, risks, are obviously issues in any business in any countries. And the important thing is once you understand the risk and then you know how to manage the risk, it is not in an absolute sense. And I'll also like to state, there is no commonalities in culture, language with Korea. Koreans, Hyundai, Samsung, LG, I mean, you name a brand, they have absolutely dominated the car industry and the durable markets. So therefore, there is somewhere a lack of entrepreneurship. And what I think, because the JITO as a forum is about entrepreneurship, my serious view is that we have to make an effort as an industry, CII, and anybody, BCA, to take groups of people in specific, not 400, 300, 500, in specific industry sector. Let them interact and engage with their counterparts in India and understand, because India is a way, and there's going to be a realignment of supply chain with what's happening in China. So India offers a fantastic investment opportunity. And I think Australia offers, because of lack of entrepreneurship, a phenomenal opportunity in food and agri for the Indian entrepreneurs. And again, they think Australia is too small, Australia is too far, Australia is not relevant. But I think my personal view is India is not as hard as we think it is. And India is a great place to invest for the long term. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and it's great to hear because you've got the live experience of doing trade in both countries, and you were talking about the complexity, and that's in any place. We're very fortunate that we've got Yashika here from Invest India, and Invest India is doing things to make it easier for Australian companies and Australian businesses to venture into India. So what are your thoughts, Yashika, on that? What is the work that the Indian government is doing, and how can we make it seamless?
I would like to first begin by thanking you for this opportunity. And if I just take 1 quick minute to introduce my organization formally, I'm not sure if the fellow panelists and the guests sitting there would know Invest India. So Invest India is a national investment promotion and facilitation agency of Government of India. It is set up as a non-for-profit organization, and our core mandate is to help and retain high quality investments into the country. We handhold investments throughout the entire investment cycle, from pre-investment to the investment phase and to aftercare. So all the services which are being offered by Invest India are on pro bono basis. Coming back to your question, yes, definitely Government of India has been doing a lot. They've taken a lot of measures and initiatives in the past 2 years. In fact, the ease of doing business ranking for India has jumped to 63 out of 190 countries, India ranks 63rd in ease of doing business now. There are a lot of initiatives like National Single Window System, which has been recently launched by the government, where the investors don't have to go to and knock door to door for their licenses and approvals. If they want to wish to set up their operations in India, they can easily get the licenses and approvals under one platform. Then there's One District, One Product, which has been which is also one of the most important initiative and is launched by our Honorable Prime Minister. It's also to boost manufacturing and exports from India. Corporate tax has been recently reduced from 20 to 15% for new companies. So that's also yet another important initiative. Government has also formed an empowered group of secretaries and project development cells under the central ministry and departments to ease out and to help foreign investors with any challenges or issues they are facing through their investment cycle, or any challenges which they are facing investing in India or looking at any opportunities. There's a portal which has been formed, which is called Investment India Grid, which has a database of all the investable projects in India. So you don't have to literally go to different departments. There's one unique platform where you can find a lot of information on the investable projects if the companies are looking at it. And of course, Invest India is also a platform which you can use. It is also an initiative by Government of India to ease out and help and handhold the investments into the country. Australia being one of the most important partner after ACTA, it has not only trade, I feel, as my fellow panelist has also said, it is also bilateral investments which we are looking at out of this agreement. So I wish any companies or any queries if this after this event which any Australian companies would like to know, or for any, I know India is a little complex market. There are 29 provinces, so every state would have different incentives to offer. Every state would have different sectors to offer. So please do reach out to us. We are your one-stop shop to help you, guide you which state you should go to, which sectors you should look at, and for which states, and accordingly help and ease out your investment journey in India. Sorry, Ben, I'm not able to hear you out.
Is similar to Austrade, which is being provided in Australia and across the globe in different countries. So is it fair to say that Invest India is the similar arm to Austrade for India investment?
Absolutely, absolutely. Sorry, I missed the first part of the question, but I'm assuming that you are saying that Invest India, Australia is the counterpart of what Invest India does in India, right? Is that the question? And again, lost you.
Sorry. Is Invest India the mirror organization to Austrade for business in India?
Yes, absolutely. So Austrade, in fact, Invest India has a very great relationship with Austrade. We also have had signed an MOU with them in the past, and we work very closely. So what has been the core mandate for Austrade in helping investors? Same way, Invest India is also a mirror organization as for India, it's Invest India, and for Australia, it's Austrade. So it's the counterpart.
Great. Thank you for that, Yashika. Francis, coming to you again, and that was a wonderful address that you gave before, which you tried to cover a lot there. But my question to you is, with the growing economy in India and the opportunities it presents, and with this sector coming into force now, do you see that will reduce the dependence on China for imports or exports from Australia with this new relationship that is blooming?
Thank you. Yes, the AI ACTA, and I think picking up some of the points that have been made before, provides a better environment for trade between Australia and India. It doesn't actually do the trade, so it's the entrepreneurs and the business people that have to take advantage of the opportunities. But what it does is set up an environment where Australian products are more competitive, and it gives India the opportunity to diversify its supply on things like critical minerals, and food and a whole lot of other important inputs to Indian industry, including export industry like wool and cotton into India's textile industry. And it also, with the removal of all tariffs on Indian goods coming into Australia, it provides an environment where Indian goods are more competitive. And so there is an opportunity for them to really increase here and perhaps displace other suppliers. So it is a great opportunity for trade diversification. And as I mentioned before, there's such a complementarity between the two economies that it's perfect for us really increasing trade in both directions, and both benefiting significantly from that. So I think one of the challenges that we have is to make sure that people understand what the opportunities are, and we're working with Austrade to talk to people all around Australia on that. But also we will shortly be putting up on the DFAT website an FTA portal which will provide by tariff line number exactly what's going to happen to the Indian tariffs on those particular products, so exporters can easily see what the opportunities are. But it really then just has to hand over to business people and to entrepreneurs to take those opportunities. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you. And that's why we are here today. So over to the audience. Can we take a couple of questions from the audience? If anyone's got a question to the panel, please raise your hand and we'll bring across a mic to you.
Thanks, Ben, and thanks to JITO for organizing this. My question is, if, say, for example, any Australian who wants to invest in India, and of course they don't know much about India, how can JITO or who can help? What should be the first contact point? Thank you.
I think I would be the appropriate person to take this question. Thank you for this. So I think as my introduction also, Invest India would be your first point of contact. If you are thinking about investing in India, if you don't know the sector, if you don't know the state, you don't know where to invest, the first thought of investing in India, the first point of contact should be us. We will guide you which sector you should look at, which states you should go to. We should also negotiate at the state and central level to get you the right kind of incentives. We help you with licenses, approvals at different levels, and not just during your pre-investment journey, we will also help you with your post-investment journey. So if in case you set up your operation, then you faces any issues or challenges, we help you with aftercare as well. So we should be the right person. I can drop in my email ID on the chat box, or maybe Ben, if you can share it after the event, you can reach out to us.
Interested in the trajectory of the net zero goals that both India and Australia has set in relation to the green economy. I mean, it's great to hear that there's a greenfield project that has already been launched here and it's having that traction in India too. But I would like to sort of have a better understanding of where the trajectory lies for bilateral trade and investment in the green economy considering we've set these clear net zero goals, and especially because I'm sort of representing the building and construction sort of sector, we know that India has invested quite a bit in terms of development, in terms of building codes for green building purposes, similar to Australia. So to sort of better understand where trade investment is heading to reach our goals would be something we look forward to unpacking more. Thanks.
It's a great question. Just last week, we had the Indian Energy and Power Minister visiting, Kumar Singh, and he brought with him a delegation, not just a delegation of middle-ranking executives, but the CEOs of India's leading energy suppliers. And we, at the Australia-India Chamber of Commerce, had a private dinner with the Minister. He spoke. We had the leaders of our energy power companies as well. And it was a fascinating exercise. I used the word India inevitable before because change, in my view, is India inevitable. And Indian power companies are changing as well. And Australian power companies are changing. And I'll give you an example. I sat next to the CEO, and I'll get the acronym wrong, but it's the NPCT, I think it was, the biggest power company in India. Did I get that correct? Another acronym. It's just my brain fades when I get to acronyms. And he was telling me that he provides power on a daily basis to 350 million people. And I introduced him to the CEO of our largest energy company in Australia. And he said, that's fascinating. We provide energy on a daily basis to 3.5 million people. Both have very strong renewable components to their businesses. Suzlon, an Indian company, based here in Burnley, running many of the wind farms in Australia, an important business, they were there. Adani, yes, a company controversial in this country because of the Adani coal mine, one of the biggest renewable energy suppliers in India, and I think they may even be the biggest, very close, mostly solar. The change is happening, and the interesting thing is that it's industry that's driving that change. And the fact that the Energy Minister was here was not an accident. They were here to explore the opportunities here and to explore what we can do for India. And the fact that they brought a very high-level delegation was a great compliment to this country, I thought. And increasingly at the Chamber and in other organisations, we're finding much more engagement at a high level. And if the ECTA stands for anything, it's that endorsement at a prime ministerial level of the change which is happening. And that should give industry the comfort to invest in both directions. It should give the renewable energy sector the comfort to invest in both directions. And I think we're seeing it on the ground. So I think it's going to happen. I may be misreading it, Francis, but perhaps you might want to throw a bob in there as well. He says throwing you on the spot.
Thanks. I'll just quickly note that we have noticed in free trade agreements that investment follows free trade agreements, and I think it's like the head turning effect. It's as you say, it's the kind of the blessing from leaders on the relationship. It gets people to look again, and clearly there's so much potential in this renewable energy and the development of India industry. Looking at the green technologies, that there is so much synergy between the two countries that investment and trade go hand in hand.
Thank you. Very thoughtful thoughts, both of them. And we might take one last one quickly. We are running, these conversations are intriguing and they're always not enough. But We'll take one last.
Hi, my name is Ravi. My question's for Ted and Francis. I really like the point that you made that you would like to see India as a tier 1 partner of Australia. In fact, when AUKUS was broadcasted, I really hoped it should have been AUKUS in, when India could have been part of that collaboration. But my question is defense collaboration. Defense, if you look at the history, it has been an industry that has driven innovation in any sort of industrial revolution. Do you think, and does it frustrate you that India has an independent foreign policy? Do you think there might be a circumstance where India could be on an equal standing and can be viewed as one of the 5 I countries, and maybe that could open up better defense integration between the countries? That would mean that there would be more collaborative innovation, and that could increase furthermore economic prosperity for all our nations.
Well, I think it'd be naughty for us to speculate on that. I say when I'm talking to Indian groups, India has a natural affiliation with Victoria. This state has thousands and thousands of years of indigenous history, but post the gold rush, this state was founded by multicultural communities come here from all over the world. They had a number of qualities. They were ambitious, they were family focused, they wanted to start businesses, they were multicultural, and people forget they were very, very young. Some in their teens, decision makers in their 20s. Huge investment facilitated by gold. And I say in this state, the evidence historically is anything is possible. And there's a saying about India, that anything is possible in India, because in India the opposite is always true. You can find somebody to argue whatever point you want passionately. In India the diversity is incredible. India, anything's possible. Victoria / Australia, anything's possible. And I think myself that the relationship will only grow warmer and warmer. Closer and closer. The Indian Ocean region is going to become the focus of the world, more than Europe and Northern America and more than the Pac Rim, because that's where the vast majority of the growth in the next 30 years is going to become. If we don't get a handle on that early, we'll just be a little blip down in the South Pacific. We have to be much smarter, and we need to walk step by step with India. And you suggest a common foreign policy. I don't think that's ever going to be the case. There are different circumstances. But if we understand each other, as we understand New Zealand, we can beat the hell out of New Zealanders on the football field, on the rugby field. I've been there, I've done that, that's fun. But I feel in my heart that they're at one with us in the things we do. And I feel the same way. Dee talked about South Korea. There's an incredibly warm relationship we have with South Korea. It's beyond language. It's beyond all sorts of things. It's values, inspiration, youthfulness. And you think India currently is average age 10 years younger than Europe, Australia, US, China, 20 years younger than the average age in Japan. That youthfulness, that spirit of youthfulness, is something that we should all cherish and foster. And I should shut up and get out of here. Francis.
I can't answer that. That was very good.
Didi.
I think there obviously is going to be higher level of engagement in cyber security. There's going to be a higher level of engagement in IT services, that sort of a thing. But I mean, I personally feel that it's a sensitive subject, and really none of us really know what is reality on the ground. But I think there's so much opportunity between the two countries beyond just looking at defense. I mean, that way infrastructure and various kinds of engagement can take place. So my personal view is, I share with Ted that that the thing is that both countries have similarities, but India and Australia have a lot of differences, different challenges. And therefore, I think the point that you're making, in my considered opinion, is very unlikely to happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know we've run out of time. There's one question on Zoom that one of the participants are asking. Vipul, could you unmute yourself and ask your question, please?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the opportunity. So let me introduce myself and my company. My name is Vipul, and I'm working in AJM Software. And AJM Software is an IT outsourcing tech company. So we just want to know like how we can tap the product-based companies or the companies who are looking for the digital transformation in Australia using this synergy of JITO. So can you give us an idea like how we can pitch our services or tell the company, because we are doing very good in US regions and now we are trying to expand in Australia region. So how things can work for us through this JITO platform?
That would be a question for all the businesses from India. And Francis, if I can answer that on your behalf, that Austrade would be the one-stop solution for that. That's where you start. And there are Austrade offices across India, Bangalore, Mumbai, especially the big cities. And I'm sure you can make contact there. Is that cool? All right. And look, for just to wrap it up. Absolutely. I'm glad at least this one worked. So, look, thank you so much, Ted, Francis, Dede, Lisa, and Yashika. Very thoughtful questions from everyone and your answers. I think this conversation can just go on forever, but I think what these conversations do is they provide an impetus for further conversations, for further feedback and further engagement by all of us, and that's what we are looking forward from this platform. I just want to wrap up by saying that Francis spoke about synergies and collaborations, and we all spoke about investments. I've been fortunate to facilitate investments into Australia, and some of those people are here on Zoom. Mahavir Mehta has invested heavily in property development here. Dr. Chainraj Roychand from Jain Group has invested with me in land development projects. And now we're looking at building a school. So it used to be always Australian education exported to India, but let's bring it on here as well and provide that holistic education that India can offer, and again collaborate with the local systems and policies and procedures. And and thank you to Monica and your team who are helping us to navigate all the bureaucracy and the councils and everything to get this up and running, which will happen in the next few years. So thank you once again. Please give a big round of applause to our panelists today. It was just amazing to have you all here today, and thank you all, audience, for your questions as well.
Thank you so much for that. It was a fascinating discussion. To provide an Indian perspective to IACTA, I'd like to invite Sanjay Jain, JITO Chairman from India. Mr. Jain is the Chairman of JITO Business Network and the Managing Director of TT Limited, a 700 crore vertically integrated textiles company. He has recently written a book, a title which I like quite a bit, A Pinch of Salt in the Recipe Called Life, and is a multifaceted personality who is actively involved in social projects and mentors young entrepreneurs globally. Are you able to hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello. A very good day to everyone here. I won't take names because the list is very long. But a special thanks to JITO Australia and International Wing team, especially Ben and Vikram, for having got this whole thing together. It all started with my son going to Australia to study in University of Melbourne last year. And that's how Australia started interesting me. And then with this FTA being coming up, and I having the opportunity of working very closely with the Honorable Minister Shri Piyush Goyal ji, as I'm actively involved in the textile industry. I contacted Ben when he was in India, and then this whole thing unfolded to have everyone here. A little about JITO Business Network. JITO Business Network essentially is a very important wing of JITO, which is there to with a clear mission of economic empowerment of people around the globe from the community. And we have about 25,000 plus business families and business units who are members and connected in India itself. And I would, many people have been wondering how do they connect with India, or how India connects with Australia. So I just say anyone from Australia, our fellow Indians, or anyone else wants to look at India, we have 27 industry groups with more than 500 members each in each of the groups. So anyone has any interest in any of the main industries, you can just drop down a message with your contact details. We'll circulate it amongst our members. I'm sure you'll find a trusted partner to guide you through. Of course, Invest India is there, but they're at the macro level. At the micro level, wherever you're looking for any help from India, and vice versa, we would look forward to JITO Australia to channelize our interest. There've been a lot of interest being put on chat, and I've got a lot of personal messages when we circulated this JITO Australia program that they would love to look at Australia, because many are already working with Europe and USA, but Australia for some reason has never been on the radar of most Indians. But now with this FTA as we call it, about to be signed and everything agreed, I feel for one, textiles industry has a great opportunity. Earlier, now the globe is talking in terms of sourcing of China Plus. And I think so wherever we talk of China Plus, the next name has to be India, where we don't have a choice. One of the options is always India in whatever field we want to look at. And if I would just share to give an idea, in textiles and apparels, more than 50% of the imports into Australia come from China. And India just has a minuscule stake of 6%. But the good news is, if you look at the CAGR growth, India in the last 5 years has grown by 10%, while China and some other countries have moved by 5%. Even if we look from a total merchandise basket perspective, we see India's CAGR growth of exports to Australia is about 11%, while the overall Australia import growth is just 3%. So it's very clear, whether it's education, whether it's merchandise, services, India is definitely increasing its stake in Australia step by step. But I think so that is something which we have been learning. Now the time has come to accelerate, and this agreement that we have got is going to help us step on the pedal and gain momentum at unbelievable rate. And all the estimates show that India is going to have very deep inroads into Australia. And this was a sort of a precursor, or I would say a warm-up, where we come to know each other, where we come to understand the opportunities which are available. Certain research has been done, and I'll highlight certain sectors where Australia has a good amount of imports, but India's share is minuscule. We have motor cars, telephone sets, medical equipments, various auto accessories, and pneumatic tires, rubber, etc. It all seems to be going around auto. So India, of course, is not known as an auto manufacturing country, but I'm sure many of you would be knowing in the budget segment, India has over the years gained a very good foothold, whether it's technology, whether it's scale, and we are now exporting to many countries across the world. Similar is for auto accessories. I think so with good partnerships, we could look at having a foothold in Australia from the Indian business community. Of course, textiles, leather, jewelry, we are already big. Diamond, we have a 50% share already in Australian imports. So these are some key areas where India is going to be stepping it on a very fast pace. And I would appeal to all the Australian side of the audience present there, anyone who's looking at any sort of partnership associations, because we all know we have our own strengths and we need to handhold each other so that we can grow and build with confidence. So please feel free to connect. Ben, Vikram can share our contact details, or you can message through them. We are keenly looking to working both from investment, also from just trade and services with Australia. And I won't repeat many of the things which I was supposed to say, as they've already been covered in the discussions which we've had before me. But once again, JITO Business Network, JBN, as we call it, is more than willing and very hungry and aggressive to see how this Indo-Australia agreement, how this can be really nurtured to create a very big foothold in Australia and vice versa. Thank you once again, Ben. And if there's anything, anytime, please contact us. Thank you, and Jai Jinendra.
Continue to be in touch with and hope to grow and build together, like you said. Our second panel delves into success stories and case studies by its business delegates. Our goal today is that whatever your industry is, you'll come away with something, a new idea, a fresh perspective, a new strategy. And we'll take a few moments for each of the panelists to briefly introduce themselves and tell us a bit about their background in the industry, and then allow Ben to kick off the conversation. Feel free to ask questions towards the end of the session, and we'll open up the floor in the second half. For those of you online, please do use the chat boxes. We'll be monitoring those and getting to those questions if time permits. I'd like to request Cam Vale, CEO ASTN Sports, Sandeep Soni, founder DFO India, Madhur Gupta, CEO Manhari Metals, Ashok Mysore, Vice President Infosys, who will be joining us online, and Bhupendra Sethia, Zone Chair, JITO Asia Pacific, to moderate the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sanskriti and Cam, welcome. Madhur, welcome. And Sandeep ji and Ashok Mysore, who's with us virtually today. He's the head of Infosys, regional director. They've been doing business globally and have a very big footprint in Australia. What we will do is this one. I don't want to talk too much, and I'm going to give the mic to the audience to ask questions to our business panel. But we might start off with Ashok, because he's got a flight to take. So Ashok, welcome. And can you tell us, when was Infosys established in Australia? How many other countries it's been there? And what are some of the best practices that you're able to take from Australia into India? Does that happen? And at what levels, and what has been done in the past? Thanks, Ashok.
Sure. Thanks so much for that, Ben. Firstly, thanks to you, Vikram, Abhay from CIA and JITO for this opportunity. As Ben introduced, Ashok Mysore, I'm the Vice President and the Regional CEO for Infosys here in Australia. We've been here for more than 2 decades, and headquartered for Australia New Zealand region in Melbourne. The organization has been around for about 4 decades. We operate in about 76 different countries, 300,000+ employees, and close to $17 billion in revenue overall. So that's just a little bit about us. I guess you were when you asked about what are the best practices that we may have actually taken back between the 2 countries. Look, I think a number of speakers did actually talk about it, right? So having done business in Australia for over 2 decades, and between India and Australia, where the cultures are quite different, our experience is that for businesses it will actually take some time and concerted effort, I guess, to transpose best practices between the 2 countries. I mean, and very simple things, which is which is unconscious behaviors. For example, if you actually take Indians or anything around in Southeast Asia, for example, working number of hours in a day, and I'm talking about pre-pandemic generally, right? So being in the office, 8 to 10 hours in the office, number of visible work hours. Somehow it actually gets translated to performance, but this is not the case in an Australian work environment, for example. Simple things around business etiquettes, being in on time in meetings, allowing others to complete their sentences, time management, assertiveness, and speaking up to the group of people, etc. Like, so these are some of the cultural nuances we found, for our own staff when they actually came over here, that they actually struggled. Similarly, I think, when we actually look at, our colleagues in Australia, it's a low-touch environment. I think Didi alluded to this more from an Indian diaspora perspective, but if you actually look at it from an Australian perspective, it's a low-touch environment, right? So people would like to have more freedom to do their own, rather than being frequently introspected or guided, where it is actually seen as micromanagement, if you like. So while working on both sides, these are some of the cultural nuances which we need to be aware of, and hence I think focus on the intent of the practice, not necessarily specific behaviors, I think is important. And having a cultural liaison to help translate such a practice would always help. So to basically go back to the basics around, okay, so what are the best practices and how do we actually take it? I think running cultural sensitivity sessions for people from both the countries, so that they can actually understand the nuances of this between the two, I think is extremely important. And we run that as a practice, for all new people who join the business or people who actually come from India here. And I think as soon as we actually talk about work, the first thing that comes to mind is people actually coming from India to Australia to do assignments, right? So, but I think doing it also the other way around really helps, actually picking up some of the best practices. And this is the lived experiences which business can actually take over there. So we do a lot of, I guess, people rotation, as in Australian staff actually going and working in India. And this is, the locals over here. In fact, we have also insisted that some of our clients actually go to India and work with our teams there. So I think there is a natural, symbiosis of cultural things, of work practices, etc., which gets actually developed. In addition to that, what we have found is running exchange programs with our partners in the ecosystem, I think actually helps. And when we do talk about ecosystem, I'm pretty sure here there is a lot of startups and scale-ups who are here. The academic partnerships, doing collaborative research of Indian researchers coming and doing research within the ecosystem, with the government, with Infosys, with our partners in academia. So these are some of the things which we have actually used, which has worked quite well for us. Another example is, I think, today the reason we are here is around the massive opportunities that are available in India for any businesses to go to India and establish themselves. And there are many examples of those success stories, Atlassian being one of them. And there are more other success stories. And I think Didi mentioned about his own experiences of not just establishing here, but taking his business back to India as well. So we have found that working with the clients in helping establish their own captives in India, for example, I think that helps in basically having a practical experience of taking some of the best practices that we have got and providing that firsthand to our clients or to people within our ecosystem to help establish their businesses in India. So these are a few examples on the cultural side, on the business etiquette side, on the business side itself. what we have actually done from a best practices. Like how do we actually take the best practices between the two countries?
And I might just ask Cam, Madhur, and Sandeep ji as well to just first introduce yourselves, what business you're doing, and what has been your interest in bilateral trade, and then we might just open up to the floor for questions. Thank you.
Is that better? Yep. So Cam Vale is my name. I am General Manager with the Australian Sports Technologies Network. So we're a Victorian not-for-profit organisation that, in very simple terms, represents the sports technology sector in Australia, of which about 60% of the companies come through Victoria. And our role, with a lot of things around education and other programs, but certainly part of me coming on board 6 months ago, is to really try and help accelerate the commercialisation of sports technology companies in Australia, and effectively have them grow as companies and grow by creating more and more jobs. And I should have said, using a cricket terminology, or sporting terminology at the moment, I am a COVID sub today. Our chairman, James Dimitri, was meant to be coming along, but I've come off the bench to replace him. But I'll promise to be more like a tail ender and really hit for the fences and try and keep my run rate up pretty high today and move through some stuff really quickly. So as we look to commercialise, James has a great saying about, born global, die local. And I think for us, as far as sports technology companies in Australia, it's a really, really important thing, is that it is obviously we're a very strong sporting market, but we are still a very small country in size and people, as a number of people have spoken about today. My past, I've been CEO at Baseball Australia and CEO at Hockey Australia, and the Hockey Australia link was where I established some level of understanding around India. We had some great partnerships that we built by working with Hockey India as the national body. Probably been to India about 13 or 14 times. First time, big cultural shock. Second to the 14th time, love the place. And Ted had the analogy, or someone had the analogy, I think, around crossing the street. Mine is getting from the airport to the hotel. First time. I won't say how scared I was, but I was pretty scared. After that, just tremendous admiration for the driving skills to get through so many small gaps and through those massive roundabouts. It went to admiration. So sports tech, a lot of, obviously we're coming out of COVID, and a lot of great opportunities. Australian sporting companies in India at the moment, the fantasy sports space and technology is probably a big focus. Wearables and things around high performance is really growing, and broadcasting and streaming. So for Australian companies, and there's a lot of different verticals inside sports tech, but I think it's that business of sport tech opportunities, fan engagement, and in particular something we're really good in Australia with our community sport and how we have pathways from grassroots through to high performance. I think there's a real opportunity for Australian sporting tech companies. It'd be great to get a deal with the Indian Premier League if you're a sport tech company, but they are going to be very, very hard to get. There's a huge ecosystem in India that is hugely underdeveloped, and I think Australian sport tech companies can be thinking about how they can be part of growing Indian sport. I think it's inevitable India will host an Olympics. India is just an enormous untapped talent with so much potential as far as talent. It's as passionate a sporting market as and I've been to many countries in my jobs in sport. There's no one more passionate about sport than India, and I dare say include that with Australia as well. So I think sports tech companies have got to continue to look to grow. India is absolutely a massive market to look at, but don't just get caught with Indian Premier League and cricket. Cricket is obviously a dominant player. Many of you know about Kabaddi. I've been just fascinated with the growth of the Pro Kabaddi League. I've had some lucky introductions there. Some of the speakers have talked about the diaspora. I'd love to see the PKL come to Australia for a few games, and we'd really see the energy of the diaspora in this country and what it could be. So some really good success stories in Australia. I'll leave you with one at the moment that's emerging, a company called Sportcore. They are developing, Mike Kasparuk, many of you might know, the Queensland cricketer has been involved in it. They have developed a smart cricket ball through technology. So in sports like cricket and baseball and hockey and other sports, you'd need a lot of heavy equipment and to track how fast the ball's gone and the velocity and the speed and the reps and all that sort of stuff. So they've developed a ball that has a smart technology inside it. Again, it'd be great to get the deal with the Indian Premier League, but just think about having a cricket ball in the hands of millions of kids and what that can do as far as a community engagement at that grassroots level, and for Australian and Indian companies to think around those CSR activities that are really important in India. And I think sport is always a small player. We're not the big part of trade deals and the like, but as we know, sport is in that soft diplomacy space is a great way to connect people, and I hope sport technology companies look to collaborate maybe with bigger technology companies to assist their growth as they get into India.
Thanks, Cam.
Good evening, Mike. Namaskar. Myself is Mary Gupta, people call Mother Gupta, and I'm really grateful and thank you to JITO Australia, especially to Ben and Vikram for invitation today. So we're really delighted, Mike. Thank you again. So our company is scrap metal recycling. We doing business from 14 years. It's not easy to start at that time, but I think we are the fourth biggest in Victoria in 14 years. The three bigger companies than us, they are doing business from 100 years. So I think we did something right to come to that stage in 14 years, So the good thing with us is, right, we are proud to be Indian Australian, The good thing with our Indian is, with all Indians here and on the Zoom, the hard work and business in our blood. We came in this country to do hard work. I'm not a racist, but I can say I believe that we Indians do hard work everywhere. If you go to any industry now, we are taking over all the industries. You go to food industries, any restaurants, any place, Indians. Owner Indians. Transport, Indians. Courier companies, Indian. Anywhere. Because the reason is we're doing hard work. And slowly we are growing. Not us, I think all Indian in this country, they're growing all, slowly. I think it's a bitter truth for all of the Indians. I don't know if someone believe it or not, but we Indians trying to be millionaire in one day. It's a bitter truth, people believe it or not, but we are. And that's the reason if you see sometime in the newspaper, some Indians fall down. It's bad for us when you see the news, but we think they're running too fast. They don't follow the compliance. This Australia and India is a very good combination. All of the Indians come in this country. We are so lucky. If you go to USA, Canada, anywhere else, we won't be sitting here. We won't be growing that fast. This country, people say Australia is a land of opportunities. And that's 100% right. This country is untouched. For Indians, a lot of things to food industries, grain, wool, scrap. There are a lot of things people can do from India. But again, I can say compliance. This country need only one thing is compliance. If we do compliance, do everything right, hard work, I reckon Indians going to take over in Australia, Ted. In 20 years, you watch any business you go, Indians everywhere. I bet we are doing fantastic. Some Indians work, but I reckon if we do compliance and Indians work right, some Indians run very fast, but I reckon we are doing good now. What do you believe, I think, isn't it? Everyone in the Zoom meeting, they got all the chances to come to Australia. We can invest in India, and there's a lot of chances. Trust me, this country is untouched, I can say. Competition everywhere, in every field, but we are going good. And again, thank you to JITO Australia. I think my concern, is that JITO is making entrepreneurs, but we just need a motivation. Indians need just a confidence and a little bit boost, and we're going to go. We won't stop, non-stoppable. So I think that's good. So thank you.
Absolutely. That's wonderful, Madhu. What an amazing story. Just want to give it take it back to 2002 and 2004, where Mother and I were friends, and we used to eat together and cook together, and so the relationship goes long back. And he flew on the pedal and the roller coaster and got into the journey of entrepreneurship. It took me a while to get onto the roller coaster of being an entrepreneur, and there is no looking back after that. So you're absolutely right. The only correction I would make, Mother, is we are not Indians, we are Australian Indians. Australia is as much a home to us now as is India. So we are definitely part of the community, and we want to see Australia grow, we want to see India grow, we want to see this beautiful relationship between the two countries grow for everyone's benefit.
So that's what I said, we're Indian Australian.
Yes.
So we are proud to be Indian Australian. So,
absolutely.
and this country, trust me, its government is very helpful. India, Australia, they've very got strong bond, because we do 100% exports. Our business, 100% exports and import. That's what we do. We don't do anything retail there. And the rules in this country is not tough. They're very simple. Like, it's easy to export. There's not much foundations. In India, if you go, there's not much foundation. It's very simple. So if you follow the right way, you will get it going. And the tariff, I think the lady gone, but she put the tariff 96% relief, but we are importing for 15 years. There's always a 5% duty, that's it. So I think they're going to help us in only 1%.
Yep.
People say something, but it's only 5% duty, always there, which is okay. It's not a bad. So.
Cool. Thanks, Maddie. We've got Sandeep Soni, and whilst we've got these big businesses which have done amazing, Sandeep started a business to take Australian goods into India and bring Indian goods into Australia. Please tell us your story, Sandeep.
Hi, look, my name is Sandeep. Now, before I go ahead, I just wanted to comment on Madhu's thing about compliance. Look, if compliance was followed in India also, things would have been much easier there. So the biggest hassle is that the compliance is not being followed. And that is why most of the businesses here find it difficult to do anything in India. So, and that is the only setback there at this point of time. Okay, now let me talk about my business. I've started 2 businesses. They are just startups. The success story would be maybe in 2 years' time, when we'll get back again, and then there'll be a success story to it. What I have done is I have had one online portal, which is in the name of DO4 India, and where we have approached about small Indian manufacturers whose products are fantastic, but they don't have neither the resource nor the knowledge to bring it to Australia. So we've got them together, we put them on an online portal, and we're going to market them there. Now, the difference between any online portal and us is that one is that we promote their brands. Second is we actually encourage the buyers here to go on a call with them and discuss what they're buying. And it's like having a virtual showroom where these manufacturers can show how the product is being made, where they can take you around the range they have and give you the best what you need. Most of these online portals, when you bought, you don't even know what is coming till the time it lands into your house. But here, you know actually what is coming, and if you don't like it, you can change it before it goes from there. So this is a portal to give a platform to the Indian manufacturers to, one, promote their brands here, second, enjoy the retail price in Australia. Because if you go as this traditional exports and imports, the manufacturer doesn't even come to know as to what the price was of their product when it was finally sold to a consumer. And the major share of that is kept by people other than the manufacturer. Here we are giving them the maximum share of that price. So there is a lot of social aspect to it. Now, what is the benefit for the people in Australia for this? They have access to all the products in India, which they probably never could otherwise find. Then there is an issue of credibility where they know what they're buying. And of course, there is the price factor, which of course they get the best price because they're buying right from the manufacturer. So this was set up basically to help Indians, manufacturers in India, plus the people who are shopping in Australia. That's one project. Second one which we are working on is we're going to open about 200 stores all over India for only Australian manufactured food products. Why we're going exclusive is that the products are there. Not all of them are there. I should say about 20% are there. But people in India don't even know where they're manufactured from. The made in Australia is not being promoted properly. So we have decided to just go exclusive. And we don't want big showrooms. We're going for small retail outlets, which is available in every place of India. So we want to spread our wings so everybody gets exposed to those, the good Australian products. So here again, the benefit for both the economies is Indians settled in India get the good products from Australia. And of course, the Australian economy with 200 shows, we're looking at millions of dollars of exports from here, which of course, it's the best thing for the Australian economy now. So this is the two projects we are working on, and of course we invite anybody and everybody who wants to join us here or in India, most welcome. Like Ben said, you want entrepreneurs, they can come up, they can have their own showrooms in India or here. I mean, options are there. So these are the projects we're working on. So let's hope in about 2 years' time, when we get back again, there'll be a success story attached to it. And before I give it to the other people, there is an opportunity which also we have created in the last couple of days that if any business wants to do something in India but they don't know how to go about it. Look, I worked in India for more than 15 years in the large corporates there. I've got the exposure here now. So we can definitely help them to get them going in India. So if anybody is interested, can connect with us. Thanks.
We might pass on to the floor for questions. Anyone from the audience?
First of all, thank you, JITO, for creating this opportunity. I think it was very much needed. Before I go to the questions, I would like to thank Ted Value. He is the force behind all this. A lot of work he has done. He has almost become Indian. I know him for a very long time. At one time, he wore my cap to become Ted, Maharaja Ted. But he really, truly, he has worked so hard in facilitating the result is now we are seeing. Secondly, this trade thing, which is coming in force, which has come in force, it will open up lot of opportunities from both the sides and greater opportunity for Indians particularly. And I think Mr. Soni read, maybe got insight into earlier that he opened such a company to facilitate both Indian and Australian companies to work in India and Australia and vice versa. So great, your company has great future because you are doing what this, what you call AI, Ekta is. Now, Didi, coming to Didi, I have known him also, maybe he has left, but he is, that spirit is needed in all Indians who want to make fortune. He made against all the odds. No Australian, being a banker, I can vouch for it, no Australian banker helped him. State Bank of India had to come from India to help him set up his project. And he has proved that if there is a will, there is a way. So he has proved against all the odds. He started manufacturing, which he exported to India from Australia. So that is a real success story. And now he has done other way around, created a market and became the largest producer of biscuits there. So that type of entrepreneurship is needed among all the Indians. And I will say with regret, there are so many organizations. I will not name them, otherwise I will be looking petty. But they have been there organizing, meeting, eating and doing nothing. So this type of setup, what you are doing, it has to be very often to bring the diaspora forward and experts who can guide them. this is the opportunity. This is the right time to utilize the opportunity. Fantastic, and I've known Mr. Gupta, seen him grow from nowhere so fast. So well done. Such type of success stories are needed. And in sports, there is a lot of opportunity. You know, more than me, you will know how the things are manufactured in villages in India. It needs to be just brought to the fore. Well done, and thank you again, JITO, for organizing, and I want to see this more often for the benefit of people like us. Thank you.
Yeah, Cam, you touched a few nerves for me. I've been fascinated about a couple of things sports-wise in India. Junior IPL was announced a few years ago. I think COVID got in the way of it flourishing. I'm not quite sure where it's at. What's the capacity for Australian teams to join Indian leagues in the same way as New Zealand teams play in some of our sporting leagues?
I think there is really good opportunities. We had a little bit with hockey. We did our sport version of a trade deal where we sent our Australian men's players to the Indian Hockey League to support the growth of that hockey league, which in return supported our male players who went from being semi-professional to professional, which in turn helped us, develop a world-class team. And at the same time, we engaged in an exchange where the men's and women's Indian teams would come to Australia to play. So we found a mutual benefit. I think in Australian sport, we've all talked about looking more towards Asia to engage. When it comes to some of the sports that are below cricket, so whether it's a hockey, the Indian Soccer League is growing enormously. We can and should be thinking of these partnerships of whether it's regular teams or, dare I say it, or as you're suggesting, could Australian teams participate in these competitions? We should absolutely be thinking about it, because particularly we've got a great sporting network and culture and infrastructure here, but a lot of sports struggle commercially. There's a big gap when you get to the so-called emerging, I hate the word second-tier sports, so emerging sports. And I think for those sports to look at more creative ways to be part of these competitions, both at a senior and at a junior level, male and female, some of the Olympic sports emerging out of India and their growth, I think we should be thinking more and more about that. Even as I finished at baseball, we had an Indian group looking to create a baseball team in our Australian Baseball League to go, well, we want to fast-track baseball's growth in this country. The best way to do that and get a league potentially starting in India is to have our better players come to Australia, and it was something I handed over to my successor. So I think that the whole topic you're talking about is really important, but Australian sport has to be more creative in its thinking, more commercial, and I say that respectfully, they should be more commercial in their thinking, because India is an enormously strong commercial market where Australian sports that are knocking on the door of NAB and Westpac, and if they're in the room, it's no offence intended, but the big companies here are not getting partnerships, more creative here, more engaging with government about using soft diplomacy and other ways. Again, really quickly, at hockey, we did a coaching partnership with Tata Steel in a regional area in India, and that showed the potential of what sport in this country can do. So I think you hit the nail on the head as to Australian sport thinking of India as a big sporting market to engage in. Cricket, of course, but beside that, there are so many opportunities. I think it doesn't take a lot of creative license to get there, but it takes a bit of effort, and effort on this side. So you've got to make the effort to go. You've got to make the effort to understand the system there. The main challenge, really quickly, I'm now not being a fast run rate, it's a bit slow. The main challenge will be, I think, India's the national and the state sporting equivalents are not as developed as they are here. So again, is that an opportunity for parts of our country to engage and improve that sort of governance and structure? So but rather than looking to Europe and the United States and China, for Australian sport, we should be knocking on every door in India. And again, if the Pro Kabaddi League has just amazed me at how it's gone from nothing to a league and a sport. If you're an Australian, if you wanted to sponsor and get exposure in India, it would be one of the great assets. The reach is just phenomenal. So we should be looking at an Australian team in Kabaddi to go play and talk about engagement. We'll get engagement that is just amazing.
Thank you. Another question
Thanks for giving this opportunity to ask a question. It's great to hear your inspiring stories, how you have created your organizations, your entrepreneurship journey. Like me, there are many over here who are very well settled in the corporate world, very well settled in our career. We are growing horizontally, we are growing vertically as well. But when we are part of this community like JITO, which always triggers a thought in our mind that we need to think and creates a dilemma that, hey, we are in a corporate world settled, but somewhere we need to move down the line or become an entrepreneur. So my question, as most of us would have, what is the one piece of advice you want to give us that how do we change our mindset or how do we move out from the dilemma of being settled in the corporate world to move and have a thinking how to become an entrepreneur, or where do we start?
I'll just ask you one question and you can then judge yourself.
Sure.
How far is your work from home?
I work 4 days in a week, 4 days in a week from home.
Okay. No, so there's no traveling.
It's only 1 day.
Okay, the day you travel, when you come out of your work, and when you're in the car, are you thinking about work or you're thinking about yourself and the family?
If I start from home, the moment I leave home, I start thinking of work. How soon can I reach my desk and start working?
No, I'm saying when you're coming back.
Or when I'm coming back. Coming back is always, as soon as I leave the flow, my first thought is how soon can I get into the train or in my car and reach home and spend time with my
What
family.
are you thinking about? Your family that time?
Family, of course.
Then you can't do business. This is a 24-hour cycle. Your thought process have to be how to grow for the next day. Most of us think in the evening. I have my 2 drinks every day. Why do I have them? Because I want to be alone that time.
Yeah, but when you're tired from your office, leaving from your home, you think of your family. But once you settle in home, you start thinking of your next
That is why I'm
thing.
saying that is the aptitude change you have to bring. That once the moment the doors of your work are closed, your mind should not be closed.
Okay.
The moment you start getting to that, you are ready for business.
Okay, I take that. Thank you.
He's right, Mike. So he's right.
Can't tell it to my boss.
We need to do the hard work. What I advise is do the hard work. Keep working. Don't think that you're going to get money tomorrow. It will pay off for sure, because hard work never goes in vain. It always pay off. But sometimes we need to think for family too. Sometime coming home, yeah. Otherwise you're going to kick out from home.
Got a counter argument, not to put anybody down here.
At time of setting it up, he's right. We have to think only for work. Family will look after you. He will back you up. You can say, yeah, mate, we're setting it up. I think family, if you're working, they know the money coming, they will be happy.
I'll probably counter this with one of my thought. And this is the mindset shift when I moved to Australia. When I was back in India, always it was work which comes priority. Always work comes first. We always say work is worship in India. But when I moved to Australia, it was always about family. Spending time with family. Family comes first. And that's the mindset which we have shifted. You're asking me to shift the mindset back and become an entrepreneur on changing that.
No. See, when you come to Australia to make money, right?
Not only to make money, to have a better life. A quality life.
See, I don't agree with this one. See, I'm 15 years in the business. I'm still working 80 hours a week. I work double than everyone, 40 hours. And that's the reason we have double growth. If you work double...
You work so hard. For whom do you work so hard?
It's like a passion. If you work for maybe family, money for family, money for you, but it's a passion.
Family.
We're not thinking we are making money, but it's a passion. Any field you're in a passion. So that's a work passion we have.
The passion generated from the family.
Let me clarify. When I said work, when you go back, drive from work to home, I was not talking about weekends. Weekends is for your family. So on the weekends is for your family. So keep those Saturday, Sunday for your family. But the rest 5 days, it has to be 18 hours of work.
I take that advice. I'll try to change something in my
Then-
lifestyle.
then-
But my purpose to be in Australia might defeated for some time till I get successful. But I definitely take your advice. Thank you so much.
Well, I will say, coming from a counselor specializing in family, you are doing a wonderful job, because balance in life is very important. And that's the part I love in Australia. There is work-life balance. And what you do today with your family, you're spending quality time with your kids and your wife. You will see the, fruit of that after 10 years, 20 years when your kids are grown up. So I will say, good, they're doing wonderful job, but coming from my point of view, and the question you asked that you're very well settled in corporate world, I have seen there is a trend coming up. People who are very well settled in corporate world, doing very well, they're actually looking for different investment opportunities where you don't have to give in your, lots of hours, few hours planning and investment. Maybe try those ventures. Thank you.
I take that. Thank you.
Thank you, Rahul, for those questions, and thanks to the panel for amazing answers. It all comes from the heart, doesn't it? When you're practicing it every day, it's a mindset shift. When we started JITO 4 years ago, we started a program called Support an Entrepreneur, and that was exactly that, to change from the comfort zone to the fear zone. And how do we change the fear zone into the comfort zone of being an entrepreneur? And we raised that time, and Ted was there, because of the learn, earn, return. And some of those people who were funded $21,000 as seed capital with no interest, no equity share, no repayments for 3 years, they have become amazing entrepreneurs. One of them has got a turnover of $5 million. It was a pure philanthropy. And that's what's given me the oomph as well in this journey, and the inspiration to help other people become entrepreneurs, make those mindset shifts. And you can still achieve work-life balance, I believe, being an entrepreneur. Like this morning, I had to come here. I woke up at 5 o'clock, went to the gym, and fed my kids after that. And I thought, I want to be fresh for tonight. I went to put the bed and took a half an hour nap before I went to the office. So you can achieve work-life balance being an entrepreneur, and I think we should all make that mindset shift. Another question from the floor?
Maybe you can just raise
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Atif. I'm a stand-up comedian, so totally different. Oh yes, I opened for him. And that, I think, is one area where we need to work better together. Like when we come to talk about arts from India, we talk about the dance. Where we have comedians from Indian origin living in Australia, so we go and perform stand-up comedy. We've got a show coming up on 13th of August. It's sold out. It's called Comedy Ka Amrit Utsav to celebrate 75 years of Azadi Ka Mahautsav. So, but my point is that is where I would like to see some more support. The art side, the stand-up comedy. I like how we have Indian Film Festival of Melbourne. Maybe we can have support in something like a South Asian Comedy Festival. Like I've been regularly performing in Melbourne Comedy Festival, but that is where we start having that recognition. In India, they can go and perform 300 days a year. For us, that's where we need a bit of support for that Indian diaspora to come together and have that opportunity to perform regularly.
And I think that's a very good point. What we really need to do as a community is support each other in our journeys, and not do the tall poppy syndrome where you pull down others to be superior. If the community grows, we grow. Let's give back. Let's learn to give back to the community. How do we help other people start that journey and be their mentor? Like Maddie's done that, Sandeepji's doing that. Cal, you've had a successful career, and there are many in this room. Ted is a billionaire with his land holdings. You know, how do we all come together and support others?
Used to me.
So I think let's have one message, if you can take away today, is let's start supporting each other in the journey without our personal benefit in mind, and unconditional love to others and to community members. Any other question?
Love you, Ben, for that.
Thank you.
Not a question, but a message to Ted. He wants New Zealand type of relationship between, like Australia and New Zealand. There should be between India and Australia. Open up the same type of citizenship arrangement.
Good one.
I like that.
Something for you to take away, Ted.
The elections are not far.
I think we have a question online.
We've got
Hello. There's no audio.
I think we just got to do more and more of that for each other, for fellow citizens, for fellow community members, and help each other get onto the journey of being an entrepreneur. Thank you very much. Big round of applause for our panel. And I must say, Maddie maintains a beautiful work-life balance. He always has Pooja, his better half, in any function, and she's a very dynamic lady. A round of applause for Pooja as well.
We've talked a lot about India, we've talked a lot about Australia, and undoubtedly Australia is becoming and is one of the investment destinations globally. So keeping it short, I'd like to invite Mr. Anand Chauhan from Purple Green Business Brokers to share a few of these hand-picked live investment opportunities. Thank you, sir.
Hello. Very good evening, everyone. It's lovely, nice listening to all the dignitaries. Thank you very much for inviting us. Thank you, JITO, for that. I love this thing. Why? Because I was thinking it's going to be again boring kind of thing where you go, sit, they talk a little bit, I talk about my business and I go home. But eventually turned out to be an interesting, very, very interesting discussion. And I'll tell you, first of all, let me tell you about myself. My name is Anand Chauhan, and I represent Purple Green Business Brokers. Although my background is all into hotels. I've been working in big hotels around the world. Came to Australia about 19 years ago. My son was born here. And obviously I started working. I had some businesses, successful businesses. Fortunately, I sold in 2018. That was a food businesses, so you can imagine, my God. Anyways, my son obviously studied over here, and when I was listening to everyone, and I was thinking, you know, when I did my business, obviously I had a little bit of background working overseas. So because I worked with 52 different nationals, I understood a little bit of diversity, which helped me in my business. When I went into business sales, one thing which I always saw, and particularly in our community, Indian community, is the second generation and the first, I'm the first generation over here, and the second generation. I think if we mix these two things nicely, we can do very, very good business. You're a very smart businessman back in India, very smart. You're very smart, intelligent businessman over here too. There are very good businesses over here and brilliant businesses in India too. But one thing which I found out that we can do really, really well is if smart people from there, people who have got money over there, they use Australia as, what do you say, like their experimental ground. Okay? A lot of Indians over here, like me, or any person who's been here for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, they understand the culture. They understand the business. For us, when we go, for me, if I go to India, it will be much more easier for me to do business. Rather than a person who is born and brought up over here and goes to India and try to do business. It's like a monster standing over here for him. Maybe because of movies and this and all those things we watch, I don't know how dangerous India is. But for me, it's much more easier to do India. Same for the second generation. If they do a joint ventures, if they come over here and they buy the businesses over here, small business, start with the small businesses. You don't have to start a multinational company over here. And I see, when you're talking about, you were talking about, how much you should work and how many hours you should put in. One thing I do believe, entrepreneur initially has to put in hours. No matter what you say, you have to put in hours. Yes, but obviously with the plans. So I think over here what I learned, I studied over here too, although I came as a permanent resident from Dubai. I studied over here and it helped me a lot to understand how things works over here. So which is always, that bridge is missing. And that is where we can work together. So Indians over here, Australian Indians, the first generation, if they help to bridge this the gap, I think we'll do very, very good. Doesn't matter what it is. So I would prefer, even for myself also, to do a prototypes over here. Set up the systems. And then you take it on for the larger scale over there. Doesn't matter, manufacture, you want to do, anything you want to do, you can do over there. But you start from here. I think this place is wonderful for startups. You don't need a very big capital. Business brokers, I've been in this business for a long time. $150,000, $200,000 is much more than enough to do a startup. And I think that's the best entry point for any business person who wants to come over here. And ease of business, we are trying in India to make it easy, but still it's going to take some time. Here, you can set up a company like this in a day. In a day, you can set up a business. I can't think that doing back in India. Good thing is, not only the joint ventures, but what you can do, and I'm talking about the people who's listening in India too. A lot of families, what they do is, they send their children for the study over here. And that is where they can test things. I've seen many success stories, and I think many people over here, they came here as a student. And they developed into good businesses. They understood. They got the residency, they love the place. Lifestyle, why I came? Because of the lifestyle. I love this lifestyle. My name is Anand Chauhan. Chauhans, hopefully Indians know, they are not a good businessman. None in my family is businessmen. They're all army people. All army. I was the first person who did business, and my dad said, my God, he's gone. He's gone. And he didn't trust me. I did a management school, he said, no, useless. My younger brother, he did engineering, he's a good son. But I did my businesses. I did little successful businesses over here. My father, when he came back, and he said, I'm so proud of you that I was thinking you were a complete failure. But you did. So when a Chauhan can do a business in Australia, I tell you, Jans can easily do business over there. The best businessmen, they are Jans. And I don't know whether you know or not, Jans will be knowing. Jans are the royal people. They were the kings. They were not the businessmen. But today, Jans are known for the businesses. Isn't it amazing? Business is all Sindhi people, Gujarati people. But now if you see Jans. So this is one of the best countries. People used to say, America, land of dream, this and that. I think today somebody correctly said, this is the land of dream, land of opportunity. So I would invite people from India to come over here, look for the businesses. As I tell you, you can go, you can buy a franchise and increase that. You can start up a franchise. Australia is one of the best places to start franchise. You can start a franchise over here. You want, you can come, buy a small business and then scale it also a little bit and see if you can go overseas. Go to, from here, Singapore, skip and jump, Dubai, India, mega base over here. Education-wise, what are the best country? My son. And I was surprised, I met one of the young boy over here, he must be sitting over here, and I just started talking, very young boy, and I asked him, what do you do? He's sitting over there. And he said, I'm into mortgage broking. I said, oh, very good. Where did you study? Hillbury. My son studied in Hillbury. Which year did you pass? This last year only. My son also. He knows my son. Wow. So it's an amazing story. Although my son, he's gone to uni, he's come to business. So he'll be a success story. Hopefully after 5 years, he's doing a double degree in engineering and commerce. He might be a success story too. But amazing, two families coming, studying together. One goes in business, one goes in academia, and he will do his business. So these things can happen in Australia. And this is something I love. Passion, energy, knowledge, if you have, this is one of the best places to start your business. And I'm here, and there are many other companies too, to help you set up your business, to buy two businesses. Acquisition is one of the, instead of setting up, if you don't have time, not many people, they want to run very, very quickly. Acquisition, buy it, do your due diligence. Very beautiful system over here. Come, look at the business, but you have to sign the CA, confidentiality agreement, that is very important. And I was surprised, not many people don't want to sign, oh, I don't know, what contract is this? It's just a CA, no problems. Do your due diligence, like a business, put an offer, buy the business, run the business, increase, and there you go. So, any person, any family, back in India, here, fortunately, I have one company back in India too. So I opened one just before COVID, because I understood this can be, and because of the trade agreements and all, I tell you, we can do good, especially pulses, lentils. We can export from here. Wines, I don't know whether gents will export wines or not, but wines is one of the biggest market in India. We can do it over here. I know there are many people who are talking. I'm involved in those kind of deals where they want to export from here to India. So there are many things which you can do from here to there and there to here. For that, either contact me, our company, or any other company. There are many companies over here. And the good thing is, it's very structured. The other thing which I think from Australia we can do back to India is vet sector. You must have seen many students coming here for the vet sector, but I think we should take our vet sector back to India. Because our training programs are really, really very good. And over there we require those kind of things. There are many companies and from the government side also, not only companies, who are trying to get those training set up back in India. There are many people, like Domino's Indians, they send their people over here to learn food safety. Amazing, isn't it? Why can't we go over and set up over there? Australian company, we can do that. And that is what we require. Vet sector, plumber, painter, do you think they have this vet sector? Nothing. This is where we can go from Australia back to India. And same as I told you from there, this is one of the best places to invest. Yes, multinational companies, SMEs and all, those are high level, macro level. But I think we should start from the micro level, small businesses, and that's the only way where the trust will build. So that is my views. Questions, please do ask. Yes, sir.
I have a suggestion.
Please.
I need a mic.
Take mine, sir.
When you're talking about investments and attracting people to come and operate businesses, buy businesses and operate here.
In Australia?
In Australia.
Yes.
Add another thing to it.
Yes.
A person who's had a business in India, decides to invest and start a business, or by running business. There's no exposure of how to run a business there. You have to have create a team of professionals who are experts in running business. Run it for him, then make a transition period. Look at 6 months to 1 year, we will make you comfortable, make sure you are a successful person, and then we move on.
Yes, what happens in many businesses, it's not that selling business and you never see the seller over there. It doesn't happen over here. Even the small businesses, when they are sold, they are given a trial period and they are given a support, even for a small business too. And nowadays, there are so many companies who have come, there are so many people like us with good background, means experienced background, good means experienced background, they are there to help you. So nowadays what is happening in small businesses, that if I have, just imagine, if I have an experience of running a hotel, okay, and you want to set up a hotel, I can give you the consultancy, okay, turnover, whatever percent you provide it to me, I will do everything, starting from recruitment to training to running of the operations. And the contracts which are happening nowadays, they are so good that tomorrow you say, okay, I don't need you, okay, thank you very much, bye-bye. It's not like a franchise contract that you have to get stuck for 5 years. So those amazing things are happening. So that is what, more questions. I know time is very, very short, but please, any other question?
Who wants a mic?
We have got time for networking. We can probably ask that question there.
Yes, okay, okay.
So
No problem.
whoever
So then,
can one-on-one.
of course, of course, of course. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you for your very passionate presentation. If this business opportunity or any business opportunity excites you here today, we have got funding sorted. We have a representative from JITO Bank, and I'd like to invite Mr. Damien Nowak, Regional Director of JITO Bank, to provide some insights about funding opportunities, business lending and acquisition financing. Thank you.
Thank you for the invite, Ben, to come up and speak to you today. It's great to be in the company of so many entrepreneurs and business people, and that's the type of people that we like to fund at JITO Bank.
Thanks, Damien. While it's coming up, your presentation, I just want to say someone made a comment before that Lily Saxena had the issue of funding and they had to bring the bank from India, the State Bank of India. Well, no more. We've got JITO Bank here, and their heart lies with business. They are a business lending specialist. We've done a lot of work with them, and they do unsecured lending based on balance sheet. They don't just look at the security, but what they look at is the character of the person. And I'm sure, as long as you take Maddie's advice of adhering to compliance and regulation and do the right thing, funding won't be an issue with JITO being there.
That's right. Well, Ben's just done my presentation. Basically, it's thank you. In the interest of time, obviously, we'll go through this pretty quickly. But the idea of JITO Bank is that we are bringing back the art of relationship banking. So the idea is that we're not looking at computers to make any of our credit decisions. We've got experienced bankers that have got the empowerment to do things at the front line to be able to get you your funding you need to do your investments. And I'd like to say that JITO has been a really big supporter of the Indian community because it's that migrant mindset is exactly the sort of customers that we want to deal with. So if you just run through a couple of slides, I'll just to give you a guide of the size that we are. This just gives us an idea that we are, we're not a big four, but we are, getting to be a big bank. So over the last 3 years, we've just started getting a full banking license in 2019 and have grown our balance sheet by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're up to $6 billion. Just to put in a little bit of context, ANZ are looking at taking over Suncorp at the moment, who've got a commercial balance sheet of around about 12 billion. So they've been going 100 years and got to 12, and we've been going 3 and are about halfway there. So we are getting to be a full-size bank. Just move on to the next one. don't need to go through too much on that one, but just shows you that we are a decent sized bank with about 450 employees at the moment. So even though we might not be fully known in the market, we are getting ourselves out there. Just put on the next one. It shows you where we are located. So we've got offices all over Australia at the moment. So as your businesses grow Australia-wide, we're going to be able to grow with you through our network there. This is why JITO exists, because the big four have had struggled basically lending their appetite against property lending. So if you didn't have a property to put up, or you got to the extent where you'd capped out what you could borrow against the property, that was about all you could do. The idea of JITO is that we look at your balance sheet, we look at yourself and your character, and are able to lend against that. So we don't prioritise mortgage lending, and that's one of our big remits to the market, because a lot of the banks, when they're looking just at mortgage lending, they're investing so much time and energy in doing that. Moving on to the next one, it's probably the one, I'll just point out in that slide there, JITO's 4 C's are in that order: character, capacity, capital and collateral. So we're looking at your house last rather than first. We're looking at you first and how much you can afford to pay us back. Why I like this slide is it shows you where we are on the curve. So the major banks have got a risk appetite down on the bottom left. The fintechs, which are your Moola and your Prosper, are up on the top right. We're just above that, so we'll do the things that the major banks, just outside of what the major banks will do. So we're not trying to get a full 20 or 30% of the market. We're looking at 5 to 10%, but we're looking at the really good customers in that market. Probably move on, and why? Because we only do business banking, we're a lot faster to get your decisions. We're smarter about how we do it, and we're looking at technology to help us do that as well. And lastly, that's the top products that we have: business loans, line of credit and equipment loans. So we're going to be able to help you with all of your business needs. If you've got any queries afterwards, speak to myself and Ben.
Very impressed with how you got through so much information in such a short amount of time. We're coming towards the end of our evening. I'd like to invite Mr. Vikram Mehta, Chairman JITO Australia, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you all. It has been a great pleasure to have all of you here present, and even people online. I'd like to call upon our JITO International Wing Director in Charge, Mr. Marvin Mehta, to give a word of thanks, and then I'll close out. Can we have Marvin ji unmuted, please? Can't hear you. Marvin ji, we can't hear you.
One second.
It's not his problem.
Vikram, continue with yours and then we'll continue.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to basically thank everybody present here, especially starting with Honourable Ted Bendu. Thank you so much for coming. Council General Commerce Division, which is Gunesh. Lisa Singh, Yashika Kurala, Didi Saxena, and Monica Kennedy, who couldn't make it. Thank you so much for all coming. And this event doesn't get successful until it's complete with each and every individual who's been behind this. And I'd like to call each and every member who's helped make this a success today. Firstly, thank you, Sanskriti, who's been a wonderful MC, and a big round of applause for her. Thanking all the crew over here. Rakeshji, can you all guys come on stage? Come on. Rakeshji, Rahul, Sanket, Come on stage, come on. Come on, Ben, Binaji, Jitesh Bhai, come on. Thank you so much for coming. Come here. I may have missed out some names, but I think they might be at the back. Ravi Bhai. I'm just trying to see if I missed out anybody. Rakesh Bhai, oh, he's very settled in there. Okay. These are the crew who's basically made this event today. Thank you so much. And Chandrashi, where is he? Is he around? Okay, he's probably stepped out, so that's fine. Thank you so much, everybody, for making this. Yes. Yeah, we can. Yeah, very good. Marvinji, are you there? Can you put Marvinji as well, please? Yep. Marvinji there? Is he there?
I think he's not there. He's not unfortunately.
Oh, has he?
Yeah, I can't find him. He's
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, anything that you're not sure of, please contact myself or Ben. We'll be able to facilitate any questions, any queries you may have. And JITO Business Network is a big platform which is in India. We have a lot of wealthy investors and also who are looking to do trade with Australia as well. So yes, please do reach out to us. Feel free. Any questions you may have, and we may even align you with any of our partners who come in today. Thank you so much.
Just before we finish,
just a sec. We've got a lot of thanks from India, from who's basically our JITO International Wing Director in charge, we're trying to make it online.
Can't find him in Zoom, unfortunately.
He says he's there.
Has he joined with any other name? I'm searching with Mahavir. I'm not able to find him.
He's there. He's there.
There he is.
No worries.
Can I mute him, please?
Hello, can you hear me? So thank you JITO Australia and thank you JBN and with the help of JIW for organize this wonderful program. Today I feel very happy and proud that with the help of Bhupen, Ben Setia and Vikram, we were able to develop a JITO Australia chapter and which is doing very good. We are doing business in Australia and I can vouch that the systems and the processes in Australia are very much helpful for doing business in Australia. And the ease of doing business, if you rate on the rate card, it is the highest at Australia. So there are a lot of opportunities, both sides from the JITO members from India and JITO members from Australia. So take benefit of the business opportunity, get connected with each other and find out new business opportunity. And Ben and Vikram is there to help you out. Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you.
And over here, folks, there's levels and networking you can do while having some something, have a bite, and you can have networking as well. Thank you.
Sorry, lastly, just to conclude, if in our conference today, if we've hurt anyone knowingly or unknowingly following GEN principles through our words, our actions, or our thoughts, we ask for forgiveness.
Alchemists have wasted centuries searching for the mythical stone which could transform things into gold. They could have simply established contact with JITO, Jan International Trade.
already covered हो गए